Welcome. And this particular session is going to be in memory of Ruth Levy, that is Golda Burke's mother. And her Hebrew name is?
vaYak'hel.
And her parents' names?
Avram, Micha, and let's see, what's my name? Golda Razel.
Wonderful. And it's Le'ilui Nishmata. This is dedicated for the elevation of her soul. And Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu, Melech HaOlam, Asher Kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
So I went and did some homework, and I have something that I hope you will find very lovely. So let me make sure I have it up. Okay, here we go. All right. We are talking about the Mishkan, and a picture is worth 1,000 words. I'm going to turn off my mail client. Give me 1 second while I do that. Okay. And here we go. Let's hope we do. This is a view of the tabernacle. That is to say, the building itself. And we see as sort of a 3/4 view, you might say. This is the Holy of Holies here, there. It is separated, as I said, by a curtain between the Holy of Holies and the holy area, which is separated by a curtain from the courtyard area of the tabernacle. This object here is actually the showbread table. So if this was east here, and that was west here, so you can see that the western wall of the current temple was the closest to the Holy of Holies. That has been pointed out, by the way. So this would be north, and this is where the table, it's partially set apart, the showbread table. This would be the incense altar, and what you can't see is the menorah that is on the south side. And I'm going to show you some more details. This gives you some sense of the height of it. All right, he's trying to give you some sense onwards. This is how it was put together. I hope David can join us this morning because he wanted to know if it could be set up. These are the boards of the tabernacle, those vertical boards, and how they were assembled and put together so that they were interlocking in various kinds of ways. So the point is that you see these are the tenons on the bottom. This is the bottom of the board. And on these, this is the aden. This is an aden. And there are two adanim that can slide up and down on these sockets so that the tabernacle will sit comfortably on the desert floor. Some other details, right? And this is the tops here. So you could see they made rings that would fit over these things and hold them together at the top. These were little posts that were put in the holes here. You see these holes? These holes here, these holes. This was for that. Okay, let me just get this. All right, so you can see how ingeniously it was. Here we are. These are these clasps that, as you can see, went over the top. These were all overlaid with gold. These were made out of gold. And you can see how these bars and posts are put together. And there's it on the Aden. And here there was also a central post that ran through the middle. So these were completely bored through, and this central piece would go, and again, connecting from every sense. Here it is in gold. So you see the silver was collected for the sockets. You see at the top how it was connected at the top and how these pieces were there. And I don't know if I have the picture of that. No. So there were actually two poles. There was a pole that went in through to the middle and another pole that went in through the middle. And that central pole went all the way. And according to a tradition, it was actually flexible. And there was one long, long piece that went through the middle, around the back, and around the front there. That's the tradition. And these are, this is the parochet. That's the, right? The ark, the cover that covered the, that was woven in such a way that it had a lion on one side and a eagle on the other side. You can see this is very roughly done. It's in miniature, so he didn't have the materials that we have now to do that, right? And there it is, right there. And this is a bird's eye view of the Holy of Holies. So you see how the ark was located, and these poles bumped against the curtain here. And they said it was like a woman's breasts against her dress. So, and this, of course, are the cherubim facing each other. And there's another bird's eye view. Do you see how the showbread table is on the north side? The menorah is set up in that way. And these were steps that the priest used to get up to trim the lamps. Another picture of it. Now you can see this is the incense altar that they burnt there. Okay. And here we are, how it was seen, from the front. And we talked about the curtains of the tabernacle. And this is a picture of the three. This is just to show you all three. So this was the Mishkan. This is what's described as the Mishkan. And this is the ohel made out of goat's hair. And this is the covering made of tan ram skins. And he doesn't have, so I guess badger, maybe he's using badger, translating the tachash as a badger. But, and he probably, I don't know that Rabbi, that Moshe Cohen was able to find, Moshe Levine, forgive me, was able to find dolphin skins. But certainly the amount of work he put in was phenomenal. This is how those curtains were made. This is so cool. So it tells you, so 5 curtains, it gives you individual dimensions, right? Made out of blue, purple, and crimson yarns and gold, interlaid with gold. Remember, a couple of weeks ago, we discussed how each yarn, each strand of yarn was composed of these things. And then, so they made these things as individual pieces and then sewed them together here. And then 5, forgive me, I'm gonna try and make it bigger. Let's see what I can do. I've lost it here. Okay, I may have to restart my computer. It just has frozen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Could you hear me before?
Yeah, yeah, we can.
Yes, nothing froze, nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, we
Your
can
video
still see
didn't
you.
freeze, your audio didn't
Yeah.
freeze. We see and hear everything.
Okay,
Yep.
my computer itself seemed to freeze. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to move this up. So 5 strands and 5 strands, and then they made little loops. We're going to see a detail of that. And these were gold clasps that were put in the loops. And this actually lay over the partition between the Holy of Holies and the holy part. The measurements are such. And here's a detail of how they were put together. The original zipper. It's really, my humble opinion,
It's really buttons.
Yes. Well, clasps, right? Because they'd have to go through on both sides to hold these in place. And here's how the cloth lay over the tabernacle, and it left a little bit above here. So it didn't go from the bottom all the way over. So the goat hair ohel was a little bit longer, I believe. And not only that, you'll see it was actually 5 and 6. So there's 6 strands and 5 here. And again, so this goes over the back a little bit more. And also, these are longer than the other ones. Their length is like, here we go. See that? How it hangs and completely covers the inner cover. And I don't know if he's going to show you how it looked in the back. He may have, and I just didn't make a picture of it. And now we've got the third cover of the tanned ram skins. But there's various opinions as to how that actually looked, because it said it went on top. So there's an opinion that says it just went on top like this. And I think he tells you. So this is Rabbi Yehuda who says this. Do you see where this goes? So these were brass or copper clasps or buttons. And I think this was designed to just show the silver sockets there. This is another opinion. Rabbi Nehemiah. I didn't actually take pictures of the courtyard, but this is sort of a plan of the courtyard, all right? So this is where the Mishkan was, and this was the altar outside where they burnt, and the measurements, look at that. You see that? These were all carefully worked out. These were posts, and you may be able to see a picture of this. This was the entrance to the courtyard, and there was a, right here, was a cover, so you'd have to go in this way. This is just a different elevation of the altar. This is the height. This would be the height of the surrounding cover. This area here. You've got a nice picture here of the whole thing, right? And this would be the tabernacle itself. The height of this, I believe.
So how much, just out of curiosity, how much did that weigh? How many people would it take? Because you said it is portable in some sense. Did they take it apart to move it, or did they
Absolutely. No, it all had to come apart. And when it came to the sacred vessels, we'll take a look at them in a moment. Here's a color picture.
He missed that because he came on right after
came on 2 minutes. 3 minutes. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
So they actually showed how it was like in pieces.
Yeah. Right. And so, so there were 3 Levitical families, Gershon, Kahat, and Merari. And the family of Kahat, which was the family from which Moses and Aaron derived, they were in charge of the very sacred objects. They are the ones who carried the ark and the showbread table and the altar and the menorah, etc., etc. They had to shoulder it. But they also had 6 carts. And 4 of the carts, one of the Levitical families, I believe it was a family of Merari, they were in charge of the boards of the tabernacle, because those boards had to be very heavy, and there were a lot of them. And they put them on on 4 carts. And then 2 other carts were for the hangings and the other parts. And I believe that the family of Gershon was in charge. This is actually a very beautiful rendition of it.
I'd like that for my sukkah.
So Rabbi, one thing I'm a little bit confused about. So you said that Aaron's family came from the Levitical family of Kahat?
Yes.
So how they became Kohanes?
Right.
And their descendants Kohanim.
Right.
So then were there only 2 Levitical families after that, because the Kahat family got transferred into Kohanim, or how did?
Okay, let me clarify that. It wasn't the entire family that became Kohanim, right? So Kahat, perhaps, I don't know if Kahat fathered, I'm not sure who he fathered, whether he fathered Amram, okay, and Amram fathered Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, okay? Mm-hmm. So there were lots of brothers and lots of cousins. So for example, Korach was from the family of Kahat. And there were other brothers. So it was quite a large family. It was just that specific part of the family. So if you're a Kohen, you are descended from Kahat, but if you're descended from Kahat, you're not necessarily a Kohen. Is that making sense for you right now?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
You bet. So again,
just through Aaron, Aaron.
Just through Aaron.
Right.
You have to be a descendant of Aaron.
So even Aaron's father was just a Levi.
Correct.
Yep.
That is correct. Yes. It happened because Aaron, remember how helpful he was to Moses? And he may have been the firstborn too, by the way, because initially the firstborn might have served as Levi'im and Kohanim. Could be. Now we get into the actual furniture. This is the ark, and it was inlaid. So there's the acacia wood, and this is inlaid with gold on the inside and out. And it talks about the crown that went around. I think it's called a zer zahav. Notice, by the way, where the poles go. Here's a picture of the cherubim and the ark cover. I think I may have shown this to you before, I'm not sure, but the cherubim were actually solidly made out of the ark cover. It looks like they've been attached, but the truth is the ark cover and the cherubim were made out of one block of gold that was hammered. But you can see now the staves that were put into it.
That would have been heavy.
Yeah,
So heavy.
yeah. Well, how much
Carted, yeah.
And they would have maybe more. They probably at least had 4 people carrying it at one time. This is the table for showbread, and the reason it's called lechem hapanim. These are the faces, right? So you had the bread lying across like this, shaped like. Remember, Rashi said it was like an open box. By the way, also a crown. There's the crown there. And this is the menorah. They're the cups in here, and these pieces, and the knop at the base. Beautiful. You know what's so cool about this way of showing the menorah? There are various opinions. Some say that these particular calyxes or whatever went through the menorah. They were evenly spaced. According to his tradition, apparently they all were up at the top. But there's something very contemporary about these designs. I mean, this is almost in some ways minimalistic. Look at that, the knob there, as described. And here we go, the cups. See how they were all facing, right? And then the central one. So this represents the mouth. These represent the nostrils, is at least a theory I have. These represent the eyes, and these represent the ears. Because if you think of it, it is through our face that we engage with the world. This is the altar for burning incense. So they always, and again, has a crown. So we have the ark that has a crown, we have the showbread table that has a crown, and we have the incense altar that has a crown, right? And so there's it parallels this wonderful saying in Pirkei Avot, which I'm trying to recollect now, where he says there are 3 crowns. There's the crown of royalty, that would be the showbread table. There's the crown of the priesthood, right? Of the priesthood. But the crown of a good name excels them all. That's represented by the ark. Because that is, the ark was gold on the inside and outside, and because a true Talmid Chacham is gold on the inside and gold on the outside. Just some other pictures. I think I'm almost at the end or at the end. That's just a full picture. Here we go. This is the bronze altar outside where they burnt the sacrifices. And I'm not sure, but this okay, this looks like the actual area where they put the stuff. So they tell you the dimensions of this. So was this sort of approximately about 2/3 the height of a man? And so he walked around this particular ledge here, and then he would offer, maybe this is where the fats went and the meat would go here. And these are the horns of the altar, right? They talk about the horns of the altar. And this is the ramp. He was not allowed to go up by steps. But the way this is looking is that it goes all the way up, so that he'd actually be walking around here, and this would be the altar. So it had to be very big. And this was the laver with which they wash their hands and their feet. Okay. Just thought you would really enjoy seeing these pictures.
So the Levi'im wash the hands and feet of the Kohen.
That's correct. That is
Did
correct.
they also wash their own hands and feet before they wash the Kohen?
I'm not sure exactly, but Lauren, I would say that made sense.
At least their hands.
Yes. Well, possibly it depends where they did it, right? If they would do it within the precincts of the Mishkan, then I would think they would have to, wash their hands and their feet before they entered. But the point about the washing in the hands and the feet of the Kohanim is that they were doing sacred work, right? And in a way, the washing, right? Purification and saying what you do in terms of where you go, your feet, how you go and where you go, and what you do, that's your hands, need to be purified. They need to be pure. The degree of morality and decent behavior is like the standards are very, very high. That's if one is doing it sincerely, obviously. We have time for a little bit of Rashi, so I'll go into seeing that. Let me find it. I believe this is it. Okay, let's try that. Oh, okay, give me a second. I think you're seeing the text, are you not?
Yes.
Okay, let me do something. Is that it? Okay, yeah, this is it. Okay. We were actually on this Tet Vav of Rashi, right? We had just talked about the olive oil for the menorah and how it was extracted in this very special way. So we're on to Tet Vav, and right, and that's still talking about the incense, etc. And the Masach HaPetach, the curtain of the opening. That's literally what it means. Remember the word sukkah, right? To protect, covering. Vilon, that's a curtain. It doesn't sound like a Hebrew word originally, by the way. I don't know what the origin of this word is, but it does mean curtain. It's still, as far as I know, it's a modern Hebrew word as well. Vilon shelifnei hamizrach. So we are talking about the curtain that was before the east part. Okay, this is of the tabernacle itself. Shelo hayu sham krashim, because that side didn't have any of the boards. The boards only went around on three sides. Velo yiriot, nor was it covered by those curtains. Remember, I know I'm calling this a curtain, but the yiriah are those long, long curtains that we saw of those three. So that front wasn't covered at all. So here we go. This is, remember, Moses is instructing the Israelites to bring these things at this point. That's where we're at on this. Et mizbach ha'olah, the altar for the burnt offering, literally is what it means, right? Ve'et michbar ha'nechoshet. So michbar sounds like it has something to do with like metal netting, something like that. And it's made out of copper or brass, asher lo, which it has. So I don't know that you can necessarily recollect the altar. I could try and do two shares at once, but I think I'm going to just trust you to remember that the top of it, remember, had a network, but also the side of it also had some holes in it. It badav, its staves, ve'et kol kelav, and all its vessels that were required to perform the sacrifices. Et hakior, that's that laver, the last picture that we saw. Ve'et kano, and its base. The laver was set on a base. Let me see what else. Okay, next verse. Et kal'e hechatzer. So we're talking about the this has to do with the cloths of the courtyard. Remember, the courtyard had these cloths that were hung from the posts. They were like sailcloths. Et amudav, its posts, ve'et adaneha, and its sockets. So I might, let's see, I can try and go back to that picture. Let me just finish. Ve'et masach shar hechatzer, and the curtain, of the gate of the courtyard. So let's take a look at the Rashi here. Et amudav ve'et adaneha. So for those of you who are a little familiar with Hebrew grammar, amudav means his, it's masculine. His posts, his columns, ve'et adaneha, that's feminine. That is the sockets and her sockets. So the point is that one's masculine and one's feminine, and they're all referring to the courtyard. Harei chatzer, we see then that the term courtyard, karui kan lashon zachar, that it's referred to as a masculine noun, v'lashon nekeva, and a feminine noun. V'chein dvarim harbe. Rashi says, don't get excited. There are lots of cases where a noun can be considered masculine or feminine. He doesn't give examples here. Ve'et masach shar hechatzer, and the curtain or the partition for the gate of the courtyard. Vilon, so again, this word vilon, a curtain, parush letzad hamizrach, that was spread out on the east side, esrim amah, it was 20 cubits wide, emtsaiyot shel rochav hechatzer, it was the middle of the width of the courtyard. Shehaya chamishim rochav. It was 50. The courtyard was 50 cubits wide. I believe it was 100 cubits long. So it's on that east side, and which is 50 cubits. The curtain itself was 20 cubits. Ustumin heimenu letzad safon, and they closed up the courtyard from this curtain on the north side. Tetvav Amah, 15 cubits, V'chein ledarom, and then on the south side as well, 15 Amah, 15 plus 15 plus 20 gives you the 50. Shene'emar, as it states, Exodus 27, V'chamesh esrei Amah klaim l'katef, and it's saying 15 cubits cloths to on the side, or for the, literally it means sort of on the shoulder. I'm going to stop the share, and we're almost out of time. Let me see where we are. Hold on one second. Okay. Let's go back into the share here. Let's find the place. Okay. Let's see. All right, give me a moment, and I'm going to share once again. So just to show what we're talking about. All right, so I think the courtyard was back this way, if I'm not mistaken. Nope, there we go. There we go. So this is what he was talking about. So that was 20 cubits, and these are the kalayim. All right. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a good detail for you to show you, but if you see that there were posts, you can see these posts sticking behind each one of these. So these posts had, if you look here, if you see, they were on an aden, okay, here. Now these look like they're gold. I'm not, so it's possible that they did, or brass or something. I can't tell for sure. Okay, it's hard to see here, but they also had, looks like it was silver. Here we go, up here. And they had hooks. Now this, I think, is a construction that he made to keep it vertical. I don't believe this was actually part of, it may have been part of the original. Because I think, unfortunately, again, I don't have the close-up. I didn't make a picture of the close-up for you. But there were these hooks from which from which these were suspended, like a sail. So in other words, the curtain, basically the middle of the curtain. And I believe these were individuals. I don't know. It's sort of interesting. Was it the complete size with each one? So this would be 15 cubits by whatever this height is, and this would be 100 cubits long. Hard to imagine that it was all just one solid piece. So that's a question. At any rate, there were hooks, and the Hebrew word for hook is vav, and so these are these hooks of these columns. This is the column that I'm talking about. These columns, right? Were called in Hebrew vavei ha'amudim, the hooks of the columns. I think you're going to find what I tell you next is cool. You realize that when you open a Torah scroll, it is composed of columns of letters. And except for 6 columns of the Torah scroll, every single column starts with the letter Vav. And there's the illusion that when you're opening up the Torah, you're alluding to the temple and the original sanctuary, the Mishkan. And with this, I will close the lesson. Stop the share.